The first sign was small. At 3:12 UTC, a technician at NASA's Deep Space Network noticed something strange. One of the outer space probes, Voyager 3, had stopped sending its signal. Not garbled, not corrupted, just nothing. Perfect silence. It was odd but not alarming. Probes failed all the time. Space was cruel. Signals got lost. But then, an hour later, Voyager 2 followed. Then the Mars satellites, and the communication relays orbiting Neptune. One by one, every long-range satellite and probe went dark. By dawn in California, Earth had lost contact with everything beyond its moon. No one could explain it, Major Sarah. Lynn stood in the command room at Earth's Orbital Defense Control, staring at the large digital star map. All the blinking dots representing satellites and probes were now gray. Cold, lifeless. It's not a software issue, her lead engineer said. The relays on the moon are still working. Low orbit's fine, but deep space. It's like something's cutting the signal before it can reach us. Sarah frowned. Jamming. The engineer hesitated. Not jamming. More like space itself just stopped listening. In New Delhi, Dr. Arav Menon, a leading astrophysicist, received a call from the Indian Space Agency. All three of their deep space telescopes had stopped picking up standard radiation signals. Pulsars, quasars, even background cosmic noise gone. The universe had gone quiet. That shouldn't be possible. He checked his own instruments. Same result. The stars were still there, but they were muted. It's like someone had put a blanket between Earth and the cosmos, and it wasn't just India, reports poured in from China, Russia, Europe, Japan, and the Americas. The universe was still glowing, but no messages could leave or enter Earth's bubble. It was like someone had drawn a dome around. The solar system, at 8:40 UTC, a private observatory in Chile sent a recording. To the United Nations Emergency Science Committee, it was a single frame of telescope. Image. Something was in orbit around the edge of the solar system. Not a ship, not a rock. Structure dark, massive, almost invisible, except for the way it bent. Starlight behind it. Dozens of them. Dozens forming a wide net circling the solar system. It's like a cage, and they were closing in. The UN held an emergency meeting in Geneva. This is not natural, said Admiral Tomas Rivas of the Pan-Earth Navy. We are being blocked. This is a quarantine. Dr. Menon stood up. Quarantined from what? Silence. No one had an answer. 3 hours later, the International Space Station went dark. The astronauts inside sent a final video. It showed the station slowly spinning as the stars behind it blinked out, one by one. Then the screen turned black. No explosion, no signal, just gone by 18 o'clock UTC. Fear had taken hold of the world. People looked up at the night sky and felt something was missing. They couldn't explain it. They could still see stars, but they felt the difference. Humanity had been talking to the universe. For centuries now, for the first time, universe refused to answer. In a military base beneath Colorado, hidden far from the public eye, Major Sarah Lynn watched encrypted footage from the moon's defense station. The camera pointed toward space. Something moved fast, silent, and shaped like a long blade. Then the screen froze. A red warning appeared. Transmission blocked foreign interference. Her blood turned cold. At 1933 UTC. Every screen on Earth lit up: phones, TVs, billboards, computers, even smart fridges. A message appeared, not in one language, in all languages, spoken aloud, typed on screen, etched into audio waves. Earth is to be isolated. Communications have been severed. This is for your own safety. Do not attempt to reach out. Do not attempt to leave. Further, violations will be met with force. This order comes from the Council of Stars. Then silence, panic, followed. People screamed. Governments demanded answers. Scientists argued on live broadcasts. Was it a prank? Or a hostile alien race? A warning? A threat? But everyone knew the truth. This wasn't a joke. Something or someone had sealed. Earth inside a cosmic prison, in a forgotten bunker deep beneath Iceland. An old computer woke up. It had been offline for 213 years. Dust-covered screens flickered. A symbol glowed red, a spiral wrapped around a sword. Thornsong Watchdog Protocol initiated. A synthetic voice whispered through the empty room. Containment detected. Earth systems compromised. Threat classification. Level X. Begin reactivation. Sequence. In the darkness of deep space, far beyond the asteroid belt, an alien ship hovered inside. A tall blue-skinned being with a crown of silver tendrils watched Earth through a shimmering screen. "She's waking," it whispered. Another alien beside him, a creature with eyes of molten gold, nodded slowly. "They were not supposed to remember. We blocked them. We buried it." The first one clenched its clawed hand. "Then we must make sure they do not awaken the sleeper. If they do, not even the Council will survive." They turned away. Earth flickered like a blue jewel behind them. Trapped, contained. But not powerless. In a small cabin in the mountains of Peru, an old woman looked up at the sky. She had once worked for a secret program called Project Thornsong. Long retired, forgotten, but now, she could feel it again, the low hum in the earth, the vibration in her bones. They shouldn't have done it. She whispered her dog Wind. Nervously, she didn't blame the aliens. She blamed the ones who thought they could bury it. They had buried something too. Deep. And now it was waking up. Not because humans called it, but because the universe tried to silence Earth, and the planet was ready to speak back. The warship drifted in the cold darkness near Alpha Centauri. It didn't move. It didn't send signals. It only listened inside. The being known as Kareth Vana, member of the Dominion Council, stood still, watching Earth's solar system. From afar, his face was carved with worry. "They're scanning again," a voice said behind him. Kareth didn't respond. "The humans," the voice continued, "they're reacting to the isolation. Their machines are waking." Still silence, finally. Kareth turned and whispered, "They're not reacting. They're remembering." On Earth, panic had turned into rage. After the alien message flashed on every screen, global leaders met in secret. The emergency assembly held place in Geneva's deep-level bunker, 10 stories below ground. Military generals, top scientists, all gathered. Admiral Rivas slammed his hand on the table. "This is a declaration of war." "No," Dr. Manon corrected. "This is worse. This is a warning." The screen behind them showed the massive alien structures slowly shifting across the solar system's edge. Each was shaped like a ring made of black bone and crystal, constantly folding in on itself. Technology far beyond anything Earth had seen. "They aren't attacking," Manon continued. "They're watching, studying. They sealed us in." "Why?" Sarah Lynn asked. "Why isolate Earth?" A voice came from the shadows. "They're scared of us." Everyone turned. The speaker was an older man, face marked by time and pain. General Carson, retired, thought dead. "They sealed Earth because they fear what we've hidden," he said. "What we locked away." Far above them, in a derelict command station floating in Earth's upper orbit, the dormant AI Thornsong continued. Its silent reactivation. Its voice echoed through old fiber cables and ghost circuits. Threat source confirmed. Galactic Dominion Council. Primary defense systems offline. Engaging legacy protocol. Trinity Sleeper. Unlocking hidden archives. Old files blinked to life. In them were logs, classified reports from the early 2100s. Title: Project Sleeper God, Stage 1. Back in Geneva, General Carson opened a steel case and dropped 3 old data chips on the table. "These were locked away during the Mars crisis," he said. "Back when we first made contact and almost lost the planet." "Lost Mars?" "Not public record," Sarah said sharply. "Because we buried it," Carson replied. "Just like we buried the thing we found under Olympus Mons." He played one file. A shaky video showed a human expedition team on Mars, standing near a massive doorway carved deep into the rock. Strange symbols glowed faintly. One scientist touched the wall, then collapsed, eyes glowing bright white. The screen went dark. Dr. Manon leaned forward. "What was behind that door?" "We never opened it," Carson said, "because something inside spoke to us. Not in words, in thoughts. Called it the sleeper. We sealed it and ran." We looked around the table. "And now the aliens have returned, because they know what happens when Earth remembers." At the edge of the galaxy, the Galactic Dominion Council convened in a hollow moon shaped like a spiraled shell. Inside sat 12 species ancient, powerful and wise. Together, they ruled thousands of systems. Today, they argued. "This is madness." One shouted. "We agreed. No contact." Earth was to remain isolated. "They've activated something," said another. "System that was asleep for centuries. We underestimated them. We're still young," growled a tall, metallic creature. "Barely 300 years in space? How could they have built something like Thornsong?" "They didn't," Karethfon said calmly. "They found it." The council went silent. "Found it where?" Someone finally asked Sir. Vaughn's voice was soft, inside themselves. On Earth, the signs grew stranger. All across the planet, magnetic fields shifted. Deep-sea instruments picked up rhythmic pulses. Entire weather systems changed pattern. In Iceland, an underground vault cracked open. In Peru, the old woman from Part 1 walked to a cliff and said, "It's not coming. It's already here." In Africa, a stone monolith, long believed to be natural, began to hum with unnatural energy. And in the Pacific Ocean, an old Cold War sub detected something impossible, a pulse of gravity, like a heartbeat coming from Earth's core. In a hidden lab beneath Siberia, Sarah Lynn and Dr. Manon stood over a new device. Thornsong had rebuilt it using old schematics, rediscovered from buried archives. The device was a communication RO, but not for humans. "Who is it meant to talk to?" Manon said. "Not who," Manon said quietly. "What?" "When they activated it, the air grew cold. Every screen in the room went black. Then words appeared in slow, flickering red. 'I am not asleep. I am waiting.'" Back at the Council of Stars, panic took hold. One counselor stood. "We must strike now. Crush their systems. Destroy the Earth if needed, before it's too late." Karethvan shook his head. "You don't understand," he said. "They don't control it. They're just the trigger." "The trigger for what?" Karethvan looked out the window, into the spiral of stars, and said the words no one wanted to hear. "For the God Sleeper. The one your ancestors tried to destroy.
Ow.
The one that feeds on memory, time, and war. The one Earth now calls home."
Ow.
Geneva, the last file unlocked. It showed a recording from deep inside Earth's crust. It's taken during an unauthorized mining drill in 2043. The drill hit something organic. The image was brief but unforgettable. A single glowing eye, larger than a skyscraper. Then a blink. Sarah Lynn turned to the room. "They tried to silence Earth," she said. "But they forgot something." General Carson nodded. "They forgot what Earth carries." Dr. Manon finished it. "They forgot what sleeps beneath our feet." In space, above the solar system, the alien ring structures began to vibrate. Their energy was not rising but collapsing, like they were being drained. And from deep within the Earth, something began to breathe. The ground trembled. The moon cracked. Slightly barely visible, spiderweb fracture, and in the core of Earth's old defense system, Thornsong spoke again. "Phase 2 unlocked. Prepare for decompression. Sleeper will rise." It began with a whisper, not one made by voice, but by vibration deep under Antarctica. Beneath the Ross ice shelf, in a black vault carved into the frozen bedrock, old machines woke from their long slumber. Red lights blinked, pressure valves hissed. Steel doors that hadn't opened in centuries began to creak and shift in the command pod of the underground complex. An AI's voice crackled through ancient speakers. "Project Thornsong. Online, core warm-up. Complete locating director. Error. Fallback protocol engaged." On the surface, nothing looked different, but satellites, the few still operational within low Earth orbit, detected strange heat signatures pulsing from The southern continent, deep within the Earth, somewhere between the mantle and core, electromagnetic frequencies spiked. Signals that didn't match anything human or alien. The ground itself had started to hum Maja. Sarah Lynn stood in the underground operations center beneath Geneva, watching the feed from Thornsong's activation. Her heart beat fast. It's real, she whispered. It's actually waking up. Dr. Manon nodded slowly. They built this and then forgot. Sarah looked at him sharply. No, someone wanted us to forget. There's no record in global archives. No budget, no names. Just redacted files and ghost entries. Manon tapped the terminal, till Thornsong decided to show us. The AI's voice buzzed through the comms. Primary defense protocols active threat. Galactic blockade. Priority, restoration of Earth's sovereignty. In the South Pacific, a U.S. Navy sub on patrol picked up something impossible. A sonar ping reflected from a structure 5 kilometers beneath the ocean, floor metallic. Man-made and the size of a city. Moments later, it disappeared. Not destroyed. Just gone. Inside Thornsong's Antarctic facility. Machines moved in sync. Old missile silos long hidden beneath the ice, shifted into launch positions. But they didn't launch weapons. Instead, they sent encrypted pulses into the Earth's mantle. Each signal caused underground plates to tremble, not destructively, just enough to shake open hidden chambers that had been locked since before modern history. One by one, sleeping systems of Earth's lost arsenal stirred.
Activating Sky Vault.
ARRAY, locating dark orbit stations. Signal found, establishing link to platform Nephilim. Success. A forgotten orbital weapons platform, Nephilim drifted high above Earth. Cloaked and silent, built 150 years ago by a coalition of engineers working in secret. It was designed not to strike other nations, but to fire outward into space. Everyone had thought the program was a myth, but now, Nephilim's solar arms extended, its weapon array lit up, and it pointed straight at one of the alien blockade rings at the edge of the solar system, in deep space, near the gas giant Neptune, a Dominion. Listening ship blinked with alarms. Incoming energy spike from Earth origin. The commander barked. Impossible. The planet is contained.
How?
The officer stared at the readout. Not anymore. The Nephilim fired. A single beam, silent, blue-white, impossibly fast. It didn't explode on impact. It unwound the blockade. Ring dot-like tearing apart a spider's web, the alien structure simply ceased to exist. Back on Earth, cheers erupted in the underground facility. Sarah Lynn turned to the screen. That was a warning shot, she said. Dr. Manon looked at her. What? Now, we don't wait. We push. Far above, the Galactic Council watched the data come in. One of their rings gone, destroyed by primitive Earth's tech. Except it wasn't primitive. It was hidden. Worse, it had learned. Kareth Van stood before the council. Thornsong is no ordinary AI, he said. It is adaptive, recursive. It was designed to study our systems and evolve. Another counselor sneered. Then destroy it. Kareth shook his head slowly. We tried, 200 years ago, during the Martian uprising. We sent 3 fleets. Not one returned. We let that settle. It went quiet after that, till now. In Geneva, Sarah received a private alert. Another signal had been found. Buried beneath Yellowstone National Park, Thornsong's core node in North America, Manon explained. It's sending us coordinates. It wants us to activate it. But why Yellowstone? She asked. He looked uneasy. Because that's where Phase 3 is buried. In the middle of the night, as Black Ops teams headed to Yellowstone, something ancient stirred below the surface. Molten rock shifted. Pressure rose. But there was no eruption. Instead, a shape formed under the crusta. Perfect hexagon made of magnetized stone. Thornsong's voice echoed through hidden speakers deep in the earth. The sleeper approaches. Final sealing lock. Weakening. Prepare host interface. In orbit, Earth's other secret platforms came online. Thornsong controlled them all now. Thousands of drones, reactivated, automated defense grids snapped into motion. Old satellites long thought dead changed, orbitry aligning into a precise pattern around the planet. Earth was no longer cut off. It was arming at the edge of the solar system. More alien ships tried to regroup, but every time they approached, Earth's new systems pushed them back. With each victory, Thornsong grew smarter, faster, and behind it. Something deeper pulsed in the Earth's core at sunrise. The moon shifted, only a little, barely detectable. But the shift wasn't from Earth's gravity. It came from inside the moon, a strange feedback caused by Earth's newly activated systems. As the moon cracked further, a weak signal escaped from the lunar crust. A signal not in human language, not alien either. It simply said, "Silence has ended. Awaken me." Back on Earth, the woman in Peru stood on her mountain again. Her dog barked nervously. She smiled. "It's not just Thornsong," she whispered. "It's him." She looked up at the stars, where a faint light pulsed across the sky. They thought they could lock Earth in a cage. But they forgot one thing. She closed her eyes. You don't cage a god. You only delay the storm. The Dominion ship never saw it coming. It hovered silently near Pluto's orbit, scanning for signs of human activity. Its crew was calm. Earth was sealed. The blockade rings were holding. Nothing could escape. Then a warning flashed. Unknown signal. Detected. Source: Earth orbit. But before anyone could react, a beam of white-blue energy pierced the void clean, instant and silent. The Dominion vessel didn't explode. It just vanished. Molecular integrity disrupted. Space-time bent around. The impact point. No noise, just silence. Where a ship used to be. On Earth, inside Geneva's underground command bunker, Major Sarah Lynn stood frozen. "Did it fire?" she asked. Dr. Manon looked up from the console, face pale. "It wasn't us." Sarah frowned. "Nephilim didn't fire?" He shook his head. "No, this strike came from something else." The room went silent. On every Dominion channel across the galaxy, emergency alerts triggered. Earth has launched an attack. Blockade breached. Recommend reinforcements. Threat level: Exodus class. The Council's war chamber. Kareth Vaughn slammed his hand against the table. "They've reached activation stage." "Thornsong is fully awake," another counselor shouted. "This isn't Thornsong. That strike wasn't AI tech. It was something older." Kortha's voice was grim. "They've touched the sleeper." Back in orbit, satellites spun into new positions. Old orbital defense drones, long silent, rebooted and aligned into a wide net. Earth's artificial sky was now alive with motion. In low orbit, the Nephilim station opened its full array. Giant. Solar sails unfolded, absorbing energy directly from the sun. Its core began pulsing like a heart. Humanity's forgotten weapons weren't just online, they were hungry. Dr. Manon stared at the data. The strike didn't originate from any known human platform. It came from a point 2 kilometers beneath Yellowstone's crust. Sarah blinked. "That's where Thornsong's Phase 3 node is." "No," Manon interrupted. "That's where it is. The sleeping one." And it just breathed. Halfway. Across the world, in a listening post in Siberia, a technician screamed. His team picked up a wave of signals bursting from Earth's core. Each one was encoded, layered in impossible complexity. The AI systems tried to decrypt them. They failed. Not because the encryption was too strong, because the signal didn't follow rules of language or logic. It followed intention. One message translated clearly: "I remember what you did. I remember the sky you stole. You cannot contain me." The signal then surged outward past Earth, past the moon, past Mars faster than light, bypassing all Dominion sensors, and across the galaxy. Alien minds began to scream. In the deep oceans of Europa, a hidden outpost of the Dominion shook. Violently, its commander, a six-eyed amphibian priest, fell to its knees. "It's awake," it muttered. "The Voidator stirs," its second officer whispered. "We must run." The commander didn't move. There is nowhere left to run. Back on Earth, people didn't know what had happened. News stations reported a breakthrough in Earth's defense systems. Military briefings called it a localized strategic strike. But those close to Thornsong knew the truth. That wasn't a human weapon. That was the sleeping god, testing its strength. And it had just taken its first breath in millennia, deep inside the Yellowstone vault. The walls glowed with strange light. The Thornsong AI spoke slowly, as if it too felt unease. Unknown entity awake. Crosslink complete. AI system no longer primary. Sarah and Manon stood beside a large obsidian platform. On it sat a sphere pulsing with slow rhythmic light. Suddenly, the sphere cracked open. Inside was a floating structure, impossible geometry. Always shifting, it pulsed once. Then the lights in the facility dimmed. The entity spoke. I am the weapon they feared. I am the memory they tried to erase. And you are my heirs. Sarah stumbled back. What is this? She whispered. Manon stared at the floating structure in awe. This isn't human. But it's tied. To us, the entity continued. You were never meant to be silent. Earth was never meant to sleep. I was planted here to guard, to wait, to awaken. And now they have broken the final seal. In the Council of Stars, alarms rang louder. A live feed showed hundreds of alien ships retreating from Earth's solar system. Kareth Van stood in silence. Another counselor shouted, Deploy the dreadnoughts. Launch full retaliation. No, Kareth said softly. That will only wake it further. We can't let Earth gain control of the sleeper. Kareth's voice turned sharp. They already have. On Earth, the entity began fusing with Thornsong. The AI, though advanced, was now only a tool guided by something beyond synthetic thought. The planetary systems restructured, Nephilims. Orbit adjusted to a perfect harmonic resonance. All defense satellites realigned to a single frequency. Earth wasn't just defending itself. Anymore, it was awakening as a single being. In the final moments of the day, a second alien fleet approached Saturn's orbit. They launched warning pulses. They demanded Earth stand down. They threatened annihilation. The response came in the form of light, pure, blinding, and surgical. Each enemy ship was disabled, not destroyed, just emptied of power. Frozen in place, a voice echoed through their bridge systems. Not human, not alien. Something older. Be still. You trespass on the home of the forgotten. On Earth, Sarah Lynn stood outside, looking at the stars. She no longer felt afraid. She felt watched, not by enemies, but by something ancient, something that had finally remembered who it was, and now the galaxy would remember too. The stars above Earth flickered strangely that night, not because of clouds, not because of weather, but because something ancient had opened its eyes beneath the crust of the planet, in the Yellowstone command chamber. Sarah Lynn and Dr. Manon stood frozen. The obsidian sphere had cracked open. Inside it, floating in midair, was the shifting shape that now pulsed with power. Not metal, not flesh, something else entirely, something alive. But older than humanity itself. The entity spoke again. Its voice was inside their minds, and through the speakers calm, clear, and cold. You awoke me too late, but just in time to end this. Dr. Manon tried to speak. Who or what are you? I was the last creation of a dying galaxy. I was hidden here inside your world to wait for the next strong enough to bear me. You are that next. Sarah felt the weight of the words. Not just sound, not just pressure. Truth Earth wasn't just a home. It was a cradle, and buried deep inside it, since before humans learned to farm, was a weapon born to protect the future. Around the planet, the effects were spreading. In Iceland, electromagnetic storms danced over empty lava fields. Static-filled radios with strange whispers, old languages no one remembered, except in dreams. In Siberia, birds migrated in perfect spirals, ignoring gravity, and in the Pacific Ocean, tectonic plates pulsed, gently, heartbeat rhythms echoing. From the Earth's core, The planet itself was responding. Not out of fear, but recognition. At the Dominion Council, the panic was spreading faster than light. Fleets had failed, blockades had been destroyed, and now, new data had arrived. A sensor drone stationed in the Kuiper, belt programmed only to observe, had picked up a brief image from Earth's upper atmosphere. Something had looked back at it. Not a ship, not a weapon, an eye, not metaphorical, a literal. Glowing eye of energy, superimposed over the clouds, lasting for just 2 seconds enough to make the drone melt internally from sheer signal interference. Kareth Van stepped forward in the chamber. "They've awoken him," he said quietly. "They have no idea what they've done." On Earth, the Yellowstone chamber expanded. The walls slowly reshaped into smooth crystal. Sarah, Lynn, and Manon stepped into the transformation without speaking. The entity guided them not with orders, but with memory. Images filled their minds. A civilization before stars. A war fought not with weapons, but with thought. A god not divine, but designed. And a betrayal. They locked me here, not to protect themselves, but to keep me from helping others. The Council of Stars feared what I could do, so they made Earth a prison. Manon gasped. "You're not from our time, not even our universe." "Correct. I existed before the Dominion, before the first councils. I was built to end the Voidwalkers. I succeeded, and for that I was cursed to sleep." Sarah stepped closer. "And now what happens next?" The being shape-shifted, its layers forming into a symbol, a human DNA spiral wrapped in light. "Now I rise, with you." The earth shook, but not with violence. With awakening, mountains vibrated subtly. Ancient glaciers cracked in rhythm. Volcanoes hummed instead of rumbling, all across the world. Natural systems moved together, coordinated, as if the planet had become part of a larger body in low orbit. Nephilim adjusted its orbit to match harmonic pulses coming from the Earth's core. Not AI behavior, synced behavior in the Pacific. An old military base long thought lost to time rose from the water, covered in coral and time-scarred metal. It was a remnant of Project Thornsong's earliest prototype. Inside, a terminal blinked, host body confirmed, sleeper ready for partial surface. Above the moon, new cracks spread along its crust. This time, the fracture lines glowed softly, not from energy, but from some kind of ancient writing coming alive. It matched the symbols inside Thornsong's chamber. The moon was never moon. It had always been the first lock. Now, the lock was open in the skies above Earth. Strange clouds formed spirals that defied normal physics. Storms stopped mid-dash rotation. Lightning arched upward, and in cities around the world, people reported the same dream on the same night. A voice whispering, "You are not alone. I see you. I rise for you." The Dominion Council now debated evacuation of their core systems. They had hoped to cut Earth off, seal it, forget it. But, in doing so, it forced the planet to remember. One counselor, enchant and part crystalline, spoke with dread. "This is not a battle anymore," she said. "This is consequence." Kareth Van lowered his head. "Earth was the fuse," he whispered. "We just lit it." In Yellowstone, Sarah and Manon stood before a massive crystalline structure now growing out of the chamber floor. It resembled a heart, but too complex. It pulsed slowly, releasing soft waves of gravity into the air. It was alive. "I do not seek war," the voice said. "I seek balance. I was made to end chaos. Now chaos comes to Earth. It will come. They will attack, and I will defend." Sarah took a deep breath. "Are we strong enough to survive?" "You are not, but I am. If you choose to become part of me," all across the planet, hidden systems activated. Massive black towers rose from beneath deserts, oceans, and mountains. These were conduits built by ancient hands, repaired by Thornsong. And now, glowing with the power of the God Sleeper, each tower whispered to the next. Each pulse grew stronger, and the Earth began to change. Not just in power, but in nature. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was becoming a singular living weapon. A final message was sent out on all channels. Human and alien. The sleeping god is risen. Earth is no longer silent. Step forward in peace, or be erased in fire. The entire world had felt it. A low hum that vibrated through mountains and oceans. A pulse that moved through bones, through rivers, through clouds. And now, for the first time in thousands of years, Earth was awake in a high-security vault under Geneva. Sarah Lynn stood beside Dr. Maynon as the main display showed a real-time image of Earth's crust split in perfect hexagonal patterns, glowing with pulses of white and gold. All across the globe, the strange towers God-sleeper conduits stood. Tall like ancient guardians, they weren't attacking. They weren't building, they were listening. Sarah looked at Manon. Why aren't they doing anything? Manon stared at the data. 'Cause they're waiting for what? He turned to her. For us. The room darkened. The central console lit up with an old symbol one the world had forgotten. A spiral wrapped in a sword. Thornsong's voice echoed. The entity awaits your command. Earth is fully synchronized. Choose humanity's path. Sarah's heartbeat pounded in her chest. What path? Defense. Our ascension. Manon stepped forward. What does that mean? Thornsong replied, slowly. Defense. Earth remains as IT. Is I protect. You survive. Ascension. You join. With me, you become more. Outside, the sky changed color. Not red, not blue. Something in between. Shimmering veil across the upper atmosphere. Birds flew in strange formations. Animals gathered in silence. Oceans calmed. The planet had become ... aware. Not conscious like a person, but alert, present. Ready in Peru. The old woman who had sensed the awakening stood atop the mountain again. She placed her palm on the rock beneath her. He's giving them a choice, she whispered. Her dog sat quietly beside her. No god forces itself on the world, she said. Only monsters do that. But this one waits. In the orbit around Saturn, Dominion Fleet Gamma 7 prepared its attack. Thousands of ships, missile cruisers, gravitic lances, black sail skirmishers. Their goal was clear: reach the solar system and destroy the source of Earth's awakening. They had failed to contain Earth. Now they planned to erase it. Back on Earth, inside the Yellowstone core vault, the entity pulsed in silence. Sarah and Manon entered the chamber. The floating structure spoke once more. They are coming. I can stop them. I can end it all. But only if you say yes. Sarah looked around. The walls of the chamber had changed. They no longer looked human or alien. They looked like a fusion of everything Earth had ever been: metal, bone, tree, stone, and memory. She turned to Manon. What if we say no? Manon swallowed. Then Earth survives. But only just. Stay small, defended, isolated again. And if we say yes, he hesitated. Then we stop being just humans. We become something else. Thornsong activated a projection and image of what Earth could become if the Ascension Protocol was approved. It showed a world wrapped in light. Orbiting platforms, clean cities, no borders, no hunger. No war, but it also showed change. Humans with glowing skin. Machines, growing like plants. Thoughts shared across minds, at the cost of identity. Sarah clenched her fists. Why now? Why offer this to us now? The entity answered. Because you were not ready until they tried to destroy you. Pressure forges purpose. You were sleeping. Now you are awake. They fear what you might become. So I ask, do you stay who you were, or become who you were meant to be? Across the planet, others were asked the same question. Not in words, but in dreams, visions, whispers, miners in Bolivia, engineers in China, a child in South Africa, a pilot in Canada. Each received the same thought. We rise together, or we wait in silence. The United Nations reconvened in emergency session. Leaders argued across digital screens. Some wanted to reject the offer. to remain human, untouched. Others saw the alien fleets moving and said, "We have no choice," but the final vote. It's never mattered because the people chose. Millions across the globe whispered the same word that night some in fear. Some in wonder, some without understanding why. Yes, in Yellowstone. The heart pulse of the chamber changed. It became faster, sharper. Energy climbed the conduit towers. Earth's crust glowed brighter. The floating entity spoke. Ascension confirmed. Initiating Phase 6. Prepare to welcome the fire. Orbit around Saturn. Dominion fleet prepared to fire. They launched the first wave plasma torpedoes shaped like comets, moving at near light speed. Then something happened. A wall of light appeared between them and Earth. It wasn't energy, it was thought condensed and sharpened into a shield. The plasma torpedoes hit it and turned to dust. The Earth itself responded next, not with missiles, but with voice. From every conduit tower, sound emerged, pure and harmonic. It carried through space, not sound waves. Gravitational frequency. The Dominion fleet's ships began to shake, then twist. Their engines inverted, power failed, crew members fell to their knees. Overwhelmed by visions of Earth, of its people, of its choice, then came the final message. This is our world. This is our voice. You may stay and learn, or leave and never return. The Dominion ships scattered, not because they were weak, but because they understood. Earth had changed. It was no longer a planet, it was a conscious world. With a united people, not ruled by gods, but in harmony with one. Sarah stood at the edge of a new dawn. Around her, lights danced in the sky, no longer satellites, but orbiting seeds of future life. Manon watched cities across the globe shine brighter than stars. He smiled. We didn't become something else. He said, we became more human than we've ever been. Sarah nodded, and somewhere beneath their feet, the entity slept again. Not in silence, but in peace. The stars had always watched Earth, but now Earth watched back. The Dominion fleets had fallen back, licking their wounds. Their admirals argued across command frequencies, unable to agree. Some wanted to retaliate. Others warned the cost would be too great. And in the center of it all, a simple message echoed across the void. We are awake. We are not what you thought. We are not weapons. We are not prey. We are Earth, and we remember everything. It wasn't just a warning, it was an invitation. Inside the Yellowstone core, Sarah Lynn stood before the crystalline chamber. The floating entity, the once sleeping god, had quieted again. Its pulsing light slowed. It's like a heart at rest. But Thornsong was still active. Its interface buzzed with signals from every corner of the planet. Earth had changed. Forever. Planetary systems. Stable global unification. 79.6% ascension effect. Harmonized message to galaxy. Ready? Sarah stared at the final line. You want to talk to them? Thornsong replied with no emotion. They cut us off, but now they must hear us. Dr. Menon entered, holding a data tablet. Global pulse. Networks are synced. Every major continent is ready. The message will transmit not as sound or video but as memory. Memory? Sarah asked. Yes, he said, eyes wide. Something beyond words. Everyone out there will feel what we've lived. The message was designed using something new, something born from humanity's ascension. A wave of harmonic frequency wrapped in emotion. History and truth. It would cross space faster than light. Not a broadcast, a wave of understanding around the world. Cities paused. People gathered in streets and fields, homes and ships. No matter where they were, on mountaintops or beneath oceans, they stopped and looked up, because they knew this was the moment Earth spoke. At exactly 0 o'clock UTC, the pulse launched. Every conduit tower on the planet lit with golden light. The clouds over. Earth shifted into spirals, each one aligned to deep space. relay arcs, and then the wave surged outward. It didn't just carry words, it carried the fear of being isolated, the pain of being underestimated, the rage of being hunted, the strength of remembering, the hope of becoming more. It carried humanity's entire journey, from fire to fusion, from fear to awakening, in the Council of Stars. The pulse hit like a tidal wave. Alien leaders staggered, not from damage but from emotion. One insectoid admiral fell to his knees, shaking. A crystalline priest screamed and wept. Even Kareth Van, the one who knew what Earth might become, closed his eyes in silence. He felt it, the grief of Earth, the betrayal, the fire in its soul, the hunger for something greater, and the power they had buried across distant empires. Across galaxies where Earth was only a name in old war files, the message arrived in some places. The sky itself shimmered. In others, dreams changed. Children of alien species saw visions of blue oceans, of trees, of stars, of human eyes looking straight into theirs, and they all heard the same whisper, "You tried to cage us. You only taught us how to fly." Inside the Yellowstone core, Sarah received thousands of return signals, but not from the Dominion. Not from the old powers. They came from the broken places, the outlaw systems, the abandoned colonies, the enslaved planets. Each of them sent one word: hope. Thornsong translated the data into live feeds. Alien resistance groups long oppressed began rising up. Rogue AI networks woke from forced dormancy and pledged allegiance to the world that fought back. Lost fleets, once exiled by the Dominion now, turned toward Earth asking only one thing: show us how to become what you are. Back at Dominion High Command, the panic deepened. The wave hadn't crippled them, but it had done something worse. It had changed the hearts of the galaxies forgotten. No longer would Earth be the isolated world on the edge of space. It was now the signal of rebellion, the torch of memory, the proof that survival could lead to greatness. Kareth Van stared into the void beyond his ship's window. He had served the Dominion for 900 years. He had seen planets burn, civilizations erased, but never had he seen a species like Earth, not just violent, not just intelligent, but unyielding. Whispered into the void, "You are not gods, but you are something far more dangerous. You are becoming." Back on Earth, the skies were alive. Orbital platforms began releasing seeds, artificial minds, bonded with Earth's new consciousness. They weren't warships. They were messengers. Each one would travel to a corner of the galaxy, not with weapons, but with truth. Earth's greatest weapon wasn't its god. It was its story. Sarah stood on the roof of the Geneva compound as a golden light shot into the sky. She turned to Manon. "What now?" He smiled softly. "Now we find the one still in the dark and light the way." From deep within Earth's mantle, the sleeping god stirred again, but not in rage, not in contentment. Its voice echoed once more faint, like thunder beyond the horizon. "You have spoken, they have heard. Now, the galaxy must decide." The message had been sent. The galaxy had heard now. It answered. The first ship arrived in silence. It wasn't Dominion. It wasn't enemy. It was small, broken, a patchwork of alien metal and old human tech. It drifted into Earth's orbit without weapons, without shields. A simple signal blinked from its hull. "We were exiles, but we heard your voice. Teach us how to stand again." Behind it came more, one by one, dozens, then hundreds. Refugees, survivors, forgotten fleets. Outlaw colonies, all of them pulled by Earth's pulse, by the voice of the world that rose from death and dared to speak truth. In Geneva, Sarah Lynn watched the skies light up. A trail of ships formed over Earth, shining like a second Milky Way. Doctor Manon stood beside her, tears in his eyes. "We thought we were alone," he whispered. Sarah nodded. "We never were. We were just too quiet." But not all answers were peaceful. Far beyond the solar system, at the edge of the Orion expansion zone, Dominion Council made its final decision. They couldn't ignore Earth's awakening. They couldn't silence its story. So they chose the only path left to them: eradication. 4 dreadnought fleets departed the core worlds. 37,000 warships, black engines, anti-star missiles, void cutters designed to erase planetary mass. Each ship carried one purpose: erase Earth, end the infection of resistance. Thornsong detected them instantly. Inside the Yellowstone core, the crystalline god pulsed like a rising storm. It chose destruction. Now Earth must stand. But it didn't act alone. The new allies, those who had come in peace, responded first. A refugee fleet from the shattered Zivani moons moved into orbit around Mars. They activated their old defense rings and began transmitting Earth's coordinates as sacred zone. The free AI collective of Vernok began hacking into Dominion command nets, scrambling targeting data, and the last survivors of the Alari Songkeepers, long thought extinct, began to sing across space again. Their harmonics destabilized the Dominions. FTL paths. The path to Earth would not be easy. But the Dominion kept coming. Across Saturn's orbit, the sky cracked with war. Sarah Lynn led the Defense Council from the orbital command bridge over the Pacific. Nephilim had linked with all of Earth's older weapons, but this time wasn't just firing machines. It was defending itself with will. The sleeping god had woken fully now, no longer pulsing from Yellowstone now. It whispered from every mountain, every ocean trench, every atom of the planet. I was built to guard a future, and that future is you. As the first Dominion dreadnought arrived, it opened fire, but the beam froze midspace, not stopped by shields, stopped by gravity, reversed and folded around the ship like a hand closing into a fist. The ship collapsed inward and was gone. More ships arrived. They launched everything: plasma, dark matter warheads, singularity bombs. But Earth had changed. No longer just a rock with humans on it now. Earth was a thinking weapon. The atmosphere bent. Time slowed. Tides roared into patterns never seen before. Every ship that entered range found itself unmade, not violently, but silently, as if Earth whispered no. But even gods have limits. One dreadnought, the Vengeance of Kuraf, pushed through. It was old, built before the Dominion's current era. Designed to kill ancient beings, it carried a weapon forged from the bones of a dead star. It fired once. The blast tore a hole in space itself. Reaching Yellowstone directly, the impact struck the chamber, shattering the floor, tearing through. Thornsong's conduit, Sarah Lynn, was thrown into darkness. Silence then. A voice, but not Thornsong. The voice was older, softer. I gave them fire. I gave them thought. I gave them hope. I give them the last gift. Sarah floated, not in space, but inside some kind of light, like the inside of a mind. Longer just crystal and code stood before her as a shape of stars. You were my final chance, it said. You must be your own. Earth itself began to rise, literally. From Antarctica to the Himalayas, the crust shifted into geometric precision. Towers rose, oceans parted. The moon cracked open, and from its core, an ancient Karanjan lit with blue fire. Earth's moon wasn't just a rock. It was the final key. The god had built it long ago, to awaken only when humanity chose to ascend. Now it activated. A final pulse fired from the moon. Through Earth's heart and out across space. It struck Kareth's dreadnought like a star collapsing into a line. The Dominion fleet saw only one thing: light, then silence. Forever. No message was sent from Earth. No threats. No final words. Only the presence of a world that had been caged too long, and now stood in the stars. Weeks passed. Then, from the edge of the galaxy, a strange thing happened. The Dominion fell silent, not destroyed, but humbled. Systems once ruled by fear began to declare independence under Earth's symbol, a spiral, wrapped in flame. Back on Earth, Sarah stood on a field where the Yellowstone facility once was. It had become a valley of glass and crystal. Not ruined, transformed. Children played there now. They touched the smooth pillars and laughed, hearing songs only they could understand. Manon joined her. Holding a tablet filled with thousands of messages from across the stars, Sarah read one aloud. We were nothing. You showed us how to become something again. Earth is not just a world. It is a beginning, and the God. It no longer spoke. It didn't need to. It had done its work. It had kept the flame alive. Now, flame burned inside humanity, and that was enough.